Hello and welcome to another episode of The World is Our Cloister, the monthly podcast from the Irish Dominican Friars, where we let you glimpse our life inside the cloister and also take a look at the world through a Dominican lens. Today I am very happy to have on the podcast guests with me, Fr Maurice Colgan. Please say hello.
Hello, Father Chris.
That was fantastic. I'm so glad that went well. And we also have world-renowned Marian expert Eleanor Freeney. Hello.
Woo, hello.
Eleanor, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast. Eleanor is a former student of Trinity College Dublin and also a fashionista. Is that the correct term? Seamstress?
Yeah, we'll go with fashionista.
You seem to be a seamstress.
You seem to be correct.
Eleanor designs things, including Dominican habits, if you will.
Ooh.
Well, he can't really design the Dominican habit. It was designed. And here's a fun fact for you. I know you doubt its funness, but the Dominican habit was designed by, not Fr Maurice Colgan, but who?
Pre-Monster Tensions.
No, it was designed by Our Lady.
Yes, it was.
Oh my goodness me, right. So
That is a fun fact.
It's extremely fun and extremely holy and extremely awesome. So Blessed Reginald, when he was on his deathbed,
Great story.
The story has not finished, listeners. Please keep listening to me. When he was on his deathbed, he had a vision of Our Lady, which is very relevant to today's episode. And she basically handed him the Dominican habit, because up to that point, it was quite early in the order's history, and St. Dominic and his brothers had been just wearing like a kind of a tunic thing with another kind of ratchet on top. Father Maurice has been possessed by some spirit of
Sorry.
also known as the giggles.
The giggles, yes.
Can I finish my deathbed story?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, Mark.
Where was I in the deathbed story that caused you to laugh so much? So they hadn't actually got the cool, awesome kick butt Dominican habit the way we wear it now with the 3 parts and the rosary on the belt. So it was designed by Our Lady, okay, because she handed it to Blessed Reginald, and then he subsequently joined the order and told the boys, "Hey, the mother told me that this is the way the habit is to be."
So
What do you think of that, Eleanor?
he was a bit of a fashionista then.
No, Our Lady was. This is the point. Everybody's missing the point of this story. He's in crinkles. But you should find that so inspiring. I think Our Lady is the patroness of seamstresses, unless you know of another one.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. She's a pretty good designer. It's probably the best, the best habit that any order has.
She's always
Just
looking dapper.
She is always looking dapper. Okay.
Always.
Eleanor, thank you very much for being here. Oh my goodness. We are discussing on this episode Marian Apparitions, a phenomenon in the church for as far back as anyone can remember, including all of the saints, because we know of very, very early Marian apparitions. Father Maurice, are they important to us? And if so, why?
Well, I'm just going to speak from personal experience. So I visited, most of them in Europe. So Fatima, Lourdes.
This is not a competition, by the way. You don't have to show off how many times you've been to Marian shrines.
So,
I have been to Lourdes 9 times, but
9 times.
Yeah. It's not a competition.
Three, just recently in Lourdes as well. So yeah, I think for me personally, Knock has become very special over the last number of years. I just find whatever it is about the place is a place of peace, and I think that's obviously created by the atmosphere there, where I think I've heard people talking recently that Knock should be more active and should become more like Lourdes in particular, but I'd have to say no. I think one of the great things about Fatima is its peace and its tranquility. And I think Father Richard Gibbons has done an amazing job with the shrine and that. So I'd say for myself personally, Knock, I think it's a place that I enjoy going to and find spiritual solace. But I think that's important for the Catholic Church, to have somewhere to go and be community.
Absolutely. I tend to agree with you. I have been to Fatima. Sorry, again, it's not a competition, but I have been to Fatima 3 times. And I think I've been to Knock 3 times as well. So I'm pretty much out marrying you at the minute. But that's fine. You're much older than me. And it's not a race, as we keep saying. So I quite like the fact that, you know, nothing was said at the apparition of Knock. We don't have to always be like active, you know. I think what Our Lady was reminding us there is that the actual prayer life is super important. Our listening to the Lord in our prayer life, and our being still with Him, you know, and not like you say, like Lourdes is quite an active place, but you know, on the other hand, Fatima is more about kind of a peace, tranquility, and a contemplative side, which is, I think, what you're kind of talking about, which I think is very important. Eleanor Freeney, worldwide Marian expert, give us your kind of personal take on Marian apparitions. Are they important in your own life?
I would say yes and no.
Oh my goodness, this is a curveball.
Wow.
What do we do, Father Maurice? Do we keep going, or okay? Let's okay.
Just see where it goes.
Give us the no first.
I would say that you don't need them. Well, some people do. I feel like it's how God comes to you.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So, by whatever means He uses, some people it can be through Marian sites and these places, and some people don't need them at all, and you don't have to believe in them either. But I think there's something beautiful about the mystery of it as Catholics, that we are open to that and enjoy not knowing like everything. Do you know what I mean? We enjoy that there's mystery there.
Yeah. You're touching on an important point, which is that like public revelation for us Catholics, and just the way it is that it ended with the death of the last apostle. So the scripture tradition with a big T, this is public revelation, which we are bound to believe. So what you're rightly pointing out is that with Marian apparitions, it's private revelation, which is very beneficial to many people, but it's not required of us to actually believe what it said there. Yeah. What did anything happen in your own experience, in your own life, to make Marian apparitions important to you? I want the yes side.
Yes.
Very leading question.
Well,
is that a courtroom?
The thing is, I went to Medjugorje, and that's not an approved apparition site.
Okay.
But that's okay, because I went over there in 2017, and I didn't really believe in God then, and my school took me over. Our teacher, Mr. Jennings, he brings over about 50 kids every year.
Oh, wow.
And I went over, I didn't partake in anything. I had such bad anxiety. I was always so sick, and I didn't want to go. I was afraid of going because I knew if I was over there, I was going to be sick. And I went over, and I was absolutely fine. About 3 days in, I was like, wow, I feel so at peace. I feel amazing. I can breathe again. I was like, this is wonderful. Wow. So I was like, there is something here. It's extremely peaceful. And it was like I got to meet God over at somewhere where there's supposed Marian apparitions. And when I came home, I had like this light in my chest. It was like I was glowing. And my mum even said it to me. She was like, Eleanor, you can actually see that you're glowing. And I believed in God from then on. But even though it's questioned all the time, I would say that good comes from these places, regardless of whether or not they're true. And God uses everything. Yeah. He'll turn anything into a good lesson or something to bring us closer to Him. Yeah.
What age were you then in 2017?
17.
You were 17?
Yeah.
Which means you're 24 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just last week.
Super young.
That's 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
that's only 6 years younger than you.
What was that?
What are you,
26,
what are you 30, 31 yet, are you?
No, I don't know. I don't think so, no. It's hard to know. Mix up with the years.
You were alive whenever Knock happened, right?
Not too far off.
Just about to be born.
Not too far off. Not too far off. No.
So you were a 17-year-old Eleanor.
Yes.
Super anxiety, right? Kind of riven with anxiety. And for no other reason that you can explain, this was taken away.
Yeah.
And you've been more or less fine ever since.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's pretty impressive. Personally speaking, I don't think I've ever personally experienced that. The very first time I went to Lourdes, as I mentioned 9 times, but the very first time I went, I remember I brought the petition from my cousin who had received kind of news of a medical nature, and she was more or less healed of that affliction, because I brought a petition, I prayed for it in Lourdes, and the next thing, like, it just disappeared. Now, it's never been like investigated and that kind of thing, but I strongly believe it was through the intercession of Our Lady of Lourdes. Do you know?
Absolutely.
So God gives us these like super abundant gifts. There's nothing like requiring God to give us these gifts, you know, but He does it.
Yep.
You know, how has it changed your life apart from like removing that affliction, that kind of cross of anxiety? You know, how has it? You mentioned like from that moment you started to believe in God.
Oh,
Did
that
it just all come to you?
Yeah, it's everything to me now. Like, I have a relationship with God because of that.
Wow.
And that is literally everything. Like, without God, without having the relationship that I do, there's just no point to anything.
Yeah.
It has given me a wonderful community, and it's allowed me to know who I am as a person. It's given me worth. It's given me strength, and it's all from God, all of it. And it's completely changed my life. And it did take a while. Like, I think until about 2020 in COVID, I didn't really take it very seriously.
Okay.
I kind of just thought, yes, God is real and all of that, but it was like every day as I would go along, I would think more and more about God, and I couldn't stop thinking about God. And then it was like, well, I guess I'll have to actually look into this. And it was the perfect time because everyone was isolated, so I went and I read the Bible. I started reading all books about saints. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
From page 1 to the very end.
How many pages are there?
No idea. Yeah, and just start looking up on YouTube all different like Ascension Presents and all those.
We don't mention rivals on this podcast, by the way. There's a whole competition thing going on.
Sorry.
We don't like. Yeah.
How did you find Leviticus, by the way, as a book?
It's right after Exodus.
I think it is. Yeah.
That's how you find it.
I'm not gonna
Sorry,
lie.
it's a terrible joke.
That was good. I just got that. It was very good.
That was like my brain kept just turning off.
Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't be in the top 10, I don't think.
No, eyes
Sorry,
glazing
Lord,
over.
you know.
Yeah.
So we don't mention competitors like Ascension Presents or Father Mike
Sorry.
Schmitz or
We'll cut that out.
Aquinas 101 or God's Planning. We don't mention those
Don't
guys.
mention them.
But not to mention Father Mike Schmitz, but he does have the whole Bible in a Year podcast thing.
does.
And
He does.
I've never delved into it, but I've always wondered how he deals with things like Leviticus.
Mm.
Because I actually spent, not so humble brag, I spent my novitiate, there's not much else to do in the novitiate to be fair, but I did spend it reading the Bible, like you said, like
Cover to
page
cover.
1 to page
Whatever it is.
1056 or something crazy in my
Yeah.
Ignatius Bible. And when you're in Leviticus, you are screaming internally. No, you are pondering to yourself, what is this all about? So I'm interested in how like someone like Father Mike Schmitz, who again we don't mention, and how he kind of deals with that. But what I am interested in is
Marian Apparitions.
Marian Apparitions. Yes, thank you. But at the same time, the gift that Our Lady has given you is not just removing the aspect of anxiety that was afflicting you in your life, but it seems like it's an ongoing gift. A gift that
Yes.
keeps on
Giving.
Oh.
yeah, I suppose that's how you say that.
Yeah.
Gift that keeps on giving
Yes,
throughout
because
your life, because
that's because
you're
God.
thinking of God more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He relentlessly pursues us. That's what he does. So it's constant. It's like he makes a promise to you, and even though we're really, really terrible at being faithful, he is always faithful, and he keeps coming back and keeps calling you back no matter what. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's always. And Our Lady is the most beautiful person who ever lived, besides our Lord. Father Maurice, you're waving your microphone, and I can see that you have things to say, and I just want to bring you in because it's.
No, I think, what was said there about that we don't have to believe in the apparitions, and that's, totally true. And I think it's a very healthy way of looking at things, because at Medjugorje there's still question marks for the church, and there remain question marks until there's the final vision in inverted commas. But the fruit that's come from Medjugorje is extraordinary.
Absolutely.
And one of the other groups that's based in Knock, Shanakalo. The fruit that's come.
Did that come from? Yeah.
Came from Medjugorje, yeah.
Wow.
Sister Elvira, who's recently deceased, God rest her. But to see that spiritual healing, because addiction is a spiritual healing. For those who don't know about Shanakalo, Shanakalo is mainly for people in addiction. But the amount of people I personally know who have come through Shanakalo and have experienced that spiritual healing, and have come through addiction and, you know, are now living what you'd call, I suppose, you know, in inverted commas, normal lives, you know, married and working, etc., etc., have come through the other side, is extraordinary. So I think it's that fruit. Would you agree? Maybe, I don't know, the fruit of obviously of the sacraments. I mean, Medjugorje is huge on confession, huge on the Eucharistic adoration, obviously on the Mass, you know. So
this is a question, because I don't know. Do you remember, Eleanor, anything specifically Marian? Did you get a sense of Our Lady's presence at that moment, or was it just kind of that thing lifted and the light in your chest? Did you associate it with Our Lady?
No, I knew practically nothing about anything.
Okay, yeah.
And so to me, there was very little, there was very little meaning or who to connect it to.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember there was a candle of light service near the very end, and it was at night time, so it was really dark, and the lights were all doing procession, and you do the Stations of the Cross, and it was beautiful. And I just remember bursting into tears, and I could hear this. It was like a whisper, but it was a very firm whisper, kept saying, "Everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. Everything will be okay." And it kept going the whole time, through the whole candle of light service. And I don't know whether that was Our Lady or the Holy Spirit or what, but I've heard that voice a few times since, and it's always been very definite and very gentle
and reassuring.
Yeah, and I can't change the words that it says. I can't say anything more with my own voice in it. And I don't know whose it is. I have feelings it's the Holy Spirit rather than Our Lady, but
okay.
I kind of feel like that's from her, like Our Lady brought me to God, and then just kind of
she does that.
leaves you there.
The reason I'm asking, like, any kind of like personal knowledge or awareness of Our Lady, because I remember one of the most striking stories I remember hearing was, I'm going to get his name wrong, I think it's Roy Schuman. Is it ringing a bell?
Great lad.
You don't know him at all. No. He was, right? I think he was a gentleman from the Jewish background, right? But totally like atheist, secular kind of Jew, didn't kind of practice his Jewish faith at all. And I think it's Roy Schuman. He was teaching at Harvard Business School. This guy was super qualified, super intelligent. And out of the blue, I think he was on a walk somewhere on a beach, and he talks. His experiences up on Shalom, I think, is where I first listened to it, and he became seriously, profoundly aware of Our Blessed Lady, just out of nowhere, out of the blue. And the story he tells is kind of a conversion story from a non-believing Jewish person, right up to like a devout, committed Catholic striving to know the Lord better through the intercession of Our Lady. It's just really astounding. You know, his testimony from nothing, just out of the blue. Here's Our Lady. I'm aware of her. I know who she is. It's very strange. And he remembers actually seeing her, now, he's not she walked into the room one day. I think he might have been asleep and it was a dream.
Yeah.
But he says he remembers being struck by how beautiful her face was. That when he came face to face with her, again, possibly in a dream, maybe in a vision, who knows. But the thing he says is how profoundly beautiful she was. And I remember I was actually going through a hard time at the time when I heard that. And I just remember thinking, it doesn't matter how hard this is, because one day I will see her face. You know, and I started to really look forward to that moment. Yeah. You know, Father Maurice is crying. We could give him a minute.
Yeah.
But wait,
here's tissues.
Beautiful story.
Genuinely, it moved me profound. It was a moment of realization. I just thought, doesn't matter what you're going through, because one day you will see her. And you know, if you never be graced in this moment, because I never have, right? I never experienced what you experienced, what Roy Schuman experienced, but that doesn't matter. God is very good to us in his gifts. He gives them to whom he does. But ultimately, the biggest gift is the gift of our salvation. And in that moment, we get to meet him and Our Lady. So that will happen one day, you know? It's like, it's not some distant, never going to be seen possibility. If I stick the course, and please God I do, it will happen one day.
I think it. I mean, yes, absolutely. I just going back to Elders as well, and the Medjugorje. I think with Lourdes and with Fatima and indeed with Knock, I think one of the beautiful things about it, and just I touched on it earlier, but the whole thing of community. I mean, there's lots of people will go religiously to these shrines every year. You know, there's something about these places. Like one of our brothers now, he will go back every year. That's his kind of, it's not his vow, but his, you know, that's the way he is. He finds something in Lourdes for himself. And same with Medjugorje, you hear people going back a lot to Medjugorje. They're finding something there. I would guess it is community. I would guess, like when I've been in Lourdes or in Fatima or indeed in Knock, you get that sense that this is this big Catholic community. You could talk to anybody and they're going to be more or less on the same wavelength as you, you know.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's part, and that's a positive thing, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Because I do think today in Ireland there is that sense, you know, of lack of community.
It's one of the graces, surely, that Our Lady is giving us in the church by appearing at these places, is forming these aspects of community. Because you try to live your faith life on your own in the world, forget about it. You know, I tried that actually my second year as a doctor, and I was living with great people, not non-believing, non-practicing people, and it was way up in Derry. I didn't know anyone else, and I definitely started to slip, you know. And you mentioned it too, Eleanor, earlier on, this like super abundant gift of actual community as well.
Yes.
Not only are you becoming more and more aware of God's presence, thank God, but you are more and more into the life of His church,
Absolutely.
you know, which is what He intends fully.
No, I remember writing down, I have like, I journal, as you can see, I brought notebooks.
She is holding up a journal for those. I was going to say for those who are not watching, but nobody's watching. Paddy's shaking his head vigorously.
Are we going down in the journal afterwards, are we?
It's a copyright issue.
I write down a lot of my prayers, and one of them was, I would love Catholic friends and even one. That's what I wrote down in my prayer. And within like the next year that I had wrote that. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. By the next year, I looked back and I had like, no, not meaning to brag or anything, but
look at me, I'm so popular.
God had given me so many friends that were all Catholic and all going towards one goal, and it was actually insane.
Yeah.
The difference it made to me, but just how God worked with that prayer and multiplied it.
Yeah.
So much. Like, I'm eternally grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, as we should be, but we all should be, because your coming into the church is a gift for us. Oh no, but like it's one more soul.
He says that to everybody.
Hey, come on. But it is true for everyone, right? It is true for everyone. It's true for everyone that.
You said it to Paddy yet?
Well, he's a special case.
You know,
again.
Paddy, by the way,
he's hanging his head now. Like we like to give Paddy a hard time in these episodes. But like the gift of community. Okay, I have been to Lourdes 9 times. Sorry, how many have I mentioned that?
3 times you said that.
3 times.
How many times did you pay for yourself?
Sorry.
How many times did you pay for yourself?
Moving swiftly on. But like I have never experienced this. Okay, well I've had one experience. It's not a direct. Can I say that? Is it not a direct encounter with the Lord when it clearly is? I was looking after a pilgrim in Lourdes who had particular needs, you know, quite special needs. And I brought her in a wheelchair to various things, and her parents were there, but her parents took a break and just came along with us, and they didn't have to worry about the physical demand of pushing. Her name was Catherine, pushing Catherine in the wheelchair. And after Mass, one time at the grotto, I was very young, I was only 19, and her parents said, could we light a candle with Catherine? And so I wheeled her over, said yes, absolutely. And at the candles, at the candelabra, which were right beside the grotto at that time, they're not now, I remember Eileen, Catherine's mother, said to me, look, we'll take it from here. And they brought Catherine up, and they parked the wheelchair at the candelabra, and they lit a candle. They put the candle in Catherine's hand, and they all sang Ave Maria. And I remember just like bawling, weeping myself, because what I was witnessing was, I think, a gift from the Lord teaching me what true love was, because these parents had absolutely devoted their entire lives to caring for this girl, their daughter, their only child. And I got a profound like image of the Holy Family, actually, you know, and it really spurred me on vocationally, you know, to pursue a life of love, like true love, not like warm fuzzy feelings. And that was an experience, you know. But the other great experience on that one trip, again when I was 19, was to meet young Catholics who knew what they were about. They knew why they believed these things. They were committed, they were convinced, and they were full of joy, you know. I can't tell you how many people I've met who've had similar experiences, you know, but they also count as gifts from Our Lady on trips or these things that happen at sites of Marian Apparitions.
I suppose another question with the Marian Apparitions is, I mean, you still have the messages with us, you know.
Yeah.
So we still have the Fatima messages. We have, I mean, I suppose Lord's are the same.
There are,
but
yeah.
the focus is
Penance,
really
penance, penance.
penance, yeah, yeah.
Everyone always forgets that one, you know. You're like, actually, Our Lady was pretty serious when she appeared.
But the promise is there. I mean, so I'm told is the Dominicans did bring to Dundalk originally. Then again, I was in Dundalk, so they probably claimed it anyway. But we were the first church to bring the devotion of the first 5 Saturdays, you know, to Ireland. So I do think that seems to be having a little bit of a revival in Ireland. I would think, you know, around the churches. And I know in Knock now, there's a Fr Maurice, God bless him, he organised the last 2 years. He's really taken on board the Father Peyton Rosary Rally.
Father Peyton, the Rosary priest.
Yeah, and that's in Knock now. That's huge. The last 2 years, massive crowds, 15,000, I think. I think it's the biggest pilgrimage now to Knock. So I do think there's a revival around devotion to Our Lady, around the Rosary, please God, as we would hope.
Mm-hmm. Certainly as Dominicans, we should hope that.
And I think I was just talking to a priest up there in Knock recently, and he thinks he sees a great future for Knock, even though we see the church naturally declining.
Naturally.
In
terms of physical numbers, maybe.
Yeah, physical numbers. But he sees there's going to be... you can see great growth and a great future for Knock, which is nice to hear from a Tuam, a priest based in the Diocese of Tuam, you know.
I think, like, as Catholics in Ireland as well, we should not be forgetting about Knock. You know, like, we have a Marian apparition, and to my constant shame, the first time I ever went there was in 2017. You know, the year I entered the order. It was actually just before I entered the order, and then like just after. We always go as Dominicans on pilgrimage.
But you were living outside Ireland, of course, so that was your excuse.
What Father Maurice is alluding to is my status as a northerner. So yeah, we could actually cross the border. As many of you southerners don't seem to realise, you can go north. Most of them think that Belfast and Derry are the same place. So but
they're not.
Oh dear. Okay, we'll cancel the episode. So super important to remember Knock as Irish Catholics. Also super important as Dominicans, because Father Maurice, you mentioned about the 5 first Saturdays, that St. Dominic had a Marian apparition, right? So this is important to us, especially as promoters of the Rosary. St. Dominic was having no luck, or no success. Why would he have any luck? He was having no success preaching, I think in Languedoc, was it? Or maybe Lombardy. And he was just at his wit's end. These people were not converting. And he'd had amazing success up until that point. And Our Lady appeared to him one night as he was praying, and she gave him the mysteries of the Rosary. So the habit of the habit of praying Our Fathers and Hail Marys repetitively was in existence. But what Our Lady gave to St. Dominic, and what St. Dominic then gave to the Church, as we recognise, is the meditation on the mysteries of the Rosary. You know, so that came through a Marian apparition. That in itself is a super abundant. And again, it's not like, you know, it's not a, you know, if you miss your rosary, you don't say a rosary. It's not like a sin, you know, like it would be like to miss mass on a Sunday or this kind of thing. But we're not just dealing in terms of what is the bare minimum we have. That's not what Our Lady wants for us as our mother. She wants us to be not just like squeaking over the line, but striving into the arms of the Lord, recognizing how good He is and how good He has been to us, and how He's our ultimate happiness.
I suppose that's a question. I mean, can I ask Eleanor a question?
You can.
Thank you very much.
I'll allow it. Well, actually, Eleanor's the co-host, so
I'll allow it.
You'll allow it.
Okay, as well. That's all right.
Just in respect of for young people, how the young people, you know, you've had, you know, Catholic friends, as you mentioned. How do you see the Rosary today for yourselves? or I suppose as a part, you know, do they see it as a prayer of petition or a prayer of that you meditate on, or how do people really see it?
It really depends person to person. What I've seen, some friends, I would hear them say, "Oh, I haven't done my rosary yet today," and they'll go and do that. And like, you know, it's like they do it every single day, and it's something they don't move on without doing. And then other people, I hear them being like, "Oh, I really don't want to," you know, and that kind of thing. I personally, I find it really difficult to pray the rosary.
Yeah. Can be.
Yeah, it's
I
and once you
struggle
do
with
it,
too,
you're fine. You're like, you know, it only takes like 15 minutes or whatever. But I personally find it really difficult to actually sit down and get that headspace to do it. I don't know.
I find my mind wanders quite a bit, and that's the difficulty. It's not actually taking time to be with Our Lady. It's my own frustration at my lack of attention.
Yeah.
And you just have to, I think you just have to accept that and get over yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eleanor. But like, I'm talking generally to me and to all others who struggle with that as well. You know, like, I just find myself like, okay, I'm going to meditate in this mystery. It's going to be really fruitful, and I'm going to make it fruitful. Ultimately, you don't make it fruitful. The Lord does.
Yeah.
You know, if you give him the time and you struggle away at it and struggle at the distractions, he does reward that, I think, you know. But
absolutely.
It's become a fundamental aspect of my life. I suppose as a Dominican, we are bound to pray 5 decades of the Rosary every day. But again, it's not about how much you're bound by things. It's like, it's the fact you want to do this because you love Our Lady. But it's a bit like the mother getting up at 3 a.m. to tend to her crying child, you know, to flip it, like, how are we going to tend to Our Lady? We may not feel warm and fuzzy about doing it at the time, but love is a choice. You know, you're choosing to love her by invoking her. And really, it's like, it's not that Our Lady is there in heaven, like, give me more praise, give me more, like, you know, I need this. No, she doesn't need anything from us, but she wants us to ask her to help us. That was a mouthful, but I got there.
You did.
Thanks very much.
No, I think
Fr Maurice is here for moral support. It was great.
I think it'd be fair to say though that the Rosary, and it's not encouraged because it just can't really happen with people's busy lives, but in general I think it'd be fair to say that it's meant to be said in common, which can make it easier.
Absolutely.
Oh, it does.
You know,
we pray it in common.
Yeah.
Daily, so
yeah. So I think in common that because it can be, you know, it's a prayer, and I think that we're blessed because we have the regular life, so we know when all our prayers, you know, are going to be said. But for the person who's out in the world and it's a busy day, and you know, it's
finding time, even though you have spaces all throughout your day, and you're just like, oh, maybe later.
Maybe later. Yeah. So Jose Maria Escrivá, I always remember said, don't put it off until later. Later you will be sleepy.
Yeah.
And you will. And he's so right. Like, it's so. Yeah. But we, just to give you a little glimpse into the life of the Dominican in the cloister, we have had.
What's the name of this podcast again?
The World is Our Cloister. Okay. We have had meetings as Dominican priests and friars about how we pray the Rosary in common. Those meetings have lasted at least 45 minutes. And how we are to start the Rosary, who is to lead it on each side, how fast are we to go, are we to add this prayer or that prayer. Yeah, it's just one of the many fun aspects of Dominican life that we can... do
you want to discuss about the litany?
Yeah, so some brothers like to add a kind of a litany of saints at the end, and I'm all for that, you know, as long as it's not too long. You know, as long as it's not like 6 minutes, 7 minutes long, you're like the full thing. Like, no, for us it's actually quite a speedy enough prayer, but it's a little, I think it's a little like snapshot into your day where you just pause, you know, and you meditate on the life of Christ with our Blessed Mother, and that's really what grounding.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I find whenever I come up against a problem in my life, I go and pray a rosary, even though I won't do it every day. The first thing I do is I'll go and pray a rosary. Yeah,
it's great. It's so accessible as well as Catholics, you know. That's
the mammy, God rest her now, she used to listen to Dana do it, you know, so she'd put on the radio.
And no idea who that is.
Do you know
Dana?
Father Morris was born in the 19th century, so
Dana. Who is Dana?
Asher mammy,
very famous Irish Catholic singer.
Yeah. No, she did a song which brother Chris is going to sing at the end. What is it again? How's it go again? How's it start again? Our Lady of Knock. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah. So
she
yeah,
like that song.
It comes out. Did we do it in Knock? Or did we do the Salve? We did the Salve.
I think we did the Salve,
yeah.
which is more Dominican, but
yeah. But that's, I mean, that can be an aid too. Doing, having it on the. I'm going to say another thing that you probably don't know about. Did you ever hear of a tape or the CD player?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. No, but seriously, I asked young people about how to Helena. I'm going to call out Helena here because I embarrassed her in the sermon anyway. But when I was down in Cork, we asked her, does she know how to work? She's 23. CD player. So I did that once before. I remember, so
you have to press play, do you? You have to put the physical CD into.
So it's but yeah, I do think it's helpful to have community in prayer. If it's possible, if it is all possible, because we're blessed that way. Because we're kind of, if we're not feeling like praying, we're still carried by the community.
What he means is there's shame if you don't show
exactly.
Show up.
You know that. Your
brothers will know you didn't show up.
Paternal correction.
Fraternal shaming.
Yeah.
So what we kind of moved on to a discussion about the Rosary, and that's all well and good, because at so many Marian apparitions, Our Lady has been urging her children, her sons and her daughters, to pray the Rosary, to meditate on the life of Christ in company with her. So what we can say, I suppose, is that, Our Lady has appeared because she loves us. No, we don't have to fully, actually believe it has happened. As Catholics, it's not obligatory. But really, we should pay attention, when our mother is trying to speak to us. And it has brought so many graces and so many abundant gifts to the life of the Church. Are we agreed?
100%.
100%.
Yes.
Good. Okay. We can put out this podcast episode. That's good. I would like to wrap it up and just actually thank both of you for being here, Father Maurice Colgan and Eleanor Freeney.
Your co-host
Eleanor Freeney,
Co-host.
whose testimony you can also see in full on Radio Maria. Is that right?
Indeed.
Okay.
Encounter number 80.
Wow, she knows it
I
off by
think
heart. That's
that might be
amazing.
wrong.
And thank you all so much for listening to this episode of The World is Our Cloister on Marian Apparitions. We hope you found it beneficial. Don't forget to pray your rosary and to invoke Our Lady's help in your life. Also, don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Spotify. You can interact with us on the comments, and Paddy is nodding his head vigorously, so I'm doing well on this. You can also find out a lot more content on the Irish Dominicans media. That's YouTube. Or
better
Spotify.
content, of course.
Well, it's debatable. The bar has been set pretty high, in fairness. Am I missing any out, Paddy? What else do we have? Instagram. A lot of those things. You can check us out on all those channels. Please do go like, subscribe, all the usual things. And don't forget to join us next month for another episode of The World is Our Cloister. Thank you very much for joining us for this one. God bless and God love you.